The screens went black at 9:47 in the evening, and 41 aircraft suddenly had no eyes. In the regional tower above a snow-choked airfield, alarms shrieked while young controllers froze at dead consoles. Somewhere out there, wings full of families were circling blind through a thickening storm. And the one person who knew exactly what to do had been escorted out of that building 3 hours earlier, box in her arms, told she was a relic. Her name was Marisol Vega, and for 26 years her calm voice had threaded jets through weather that made grown pilots sweat. Tonight, the man who fired her stood in the parking lot, phone dead, watching the tower lights flicker. He had called her yesterday, in front of everyone. What he called her would soon sound like the stupidest sentence ever spoken. It began at a modernization briefing the airline forced onto the tower staff. Trent Kessler, 34, an airline VP with a spray tan and a watch that cost more than a car, strode in like the room owed him rent. "This place runs on museum equipment and museum people," he announced. He clicked to a slide of Marisol's photo. "Manual coordination, paper strips, we automate it or we bury it." Marisol sat in row 2, hands folded, expression steady. She did not flinch. She had guided a crippled cargo jet down with one engine on fire in 2011. She had talked a panicking student pilot through fog until he landed crying with joy. She simply waited. When he finished, she said quietly, "Automation is wonderful, until the day it isn't." Trent laughed, a sharp bark that bounced off the walls. "Did the antique speak?" he sneered. "Sweetheart, the whole world moved on. Satellites do your job now. We don't need somebody who learned this back when planes had propellers." A few nervous chuckles leaked from the younger staff. Marisol only nodded, slow and patient, the way a lighthouse doesn't argue with a passing boat. "The satellites are excellent," she said, "but storms don't read press releases." Trent rolled his eyes and turned to the room. "She's redundant. Effective immediately. We're transitioning to the new system, and legacy personnel will be reassigned." That was the corporate word. Everyone knew what it meant. Marisol was being pushed out, quietly before her pension milestone by a man who'd never once landed anything but a bonus. Here is the thing Trent never understood about air traffic control. The magic was never the screen. The screen was a tool. The magic lived in a controller's head, a moving three-dimensional map of every aircraft, its speed, its fuel, its pilot's nerves, updated breath by breath. Marisol could lose every monitor and still know where each plane was because she never stopped building that picture herself. The new system Trent worshipped was fast and dazzling and utterly dependent on one thing: uninterrupted data. It had one flaw its salesman buried on page 9. If the primary and backup feeds dropped together, it didn't degrade gracefully. It simply went dark and waited for humans to save it. Humans who, unlike Marisol, had been trained to trust the screen and nothing else. They gave Marisol 2 weeks. On her final afternoon, she did something no one asked her to do. She sat with the 2 youngest controllers, Priya and Deshawn, and taught them the old way. "Write it down. By hand," she said gently. "Say the numbers out loud. Keep the picture in your mind, not just on the glass." Priya frowned. "But the automation," Marisol smiled. "The automation is a passenger. You are the pilot." She showed them how to sequence planes with paper strips, how to speak so a scared voice on the other end steadies. Deshawn scribbled notes. Trent walked past the glass, saw the antique teaching finger painting to his future, and smirked. "Nostalgia hour," he said to no one. Then he clocked out early for a steak dinner downtown. The storm was not in the forecast that morning. It built fast off the lake, a wall of ice and wind that overran 3 states by nightfall. At 9:47, a substation failed, a backup generator hiccuped, and the fiber relay serving the region's new automated tracking hiccuped with it. For 11 seconds, nothing happened. Then every screen in the regional tower dropped to black at once. Priya's stomach fell through the floor. Deshawn's hands went cold. The automated voice that was supposed to guide them said nothing, because the automated voice needed data. It no longer had. Radios still worked, but 41 aircraft were now invisible dots inside a storm, and the 2 youngest controllers on the shift were suddenly the only staff left holding the entire sky. Deshawn grabbed the emergency line to management. Trent answered from the steakhouse, annoyed. "Reboot it. That's what the vendor's for," he snapped. "The vendor's on hold, sir," Deshawn shouted. "Estimated restore is 90 minutes. We have planes low on fuel." There was a long silence on Trent's end, the kind a man makes when the ground he mocked opens beneath him. "So handle it," he barked, but his voice cracked on the last word. He didn't know how. He had never known how. He had spent a career selling the machine and never once learning the craft it replaced. Then Priya, shaking, remembered a phone number written in pencil at the top of her notepad. Beneath it, in Marisol's neat hand, any time, any weather. Marisol answered on the first ring. She was home in a worn cardigan, kettle on, reading by lamplight. She heard the tremor in Priya's voice, and everything in her went still and certain. "All right," she said softly. "Breathe with me. Good. Now, paper strips. Read me every call sign and altitude you have on the radio. Slowly." She drove to the tower in 9 minutes through the snow, still in her cardigan, and walked past the dead security badge reader because a night guard who loved her waved her through. She sat down in the dark room, lit only by radio dials, put on a headset and keyed the mic. "All aircraft. This is Regional Tower," she said, calm as still water. "Radar is down. I have you. Every one of you. We are going to do this together." What happened over the next 50 minutes became legend among pilots who were up there that night. With no screen at all, Marisol ran the entire pattern from the map in her head and the strips in front of her. She spaced the jets by voice, by memory, by the fuel numbers she made each captain report. She sent low-fuel flights in first. She held the rest in gentle stacks, talking to frightened cockpits like a mother reading a bedtime story. Priya wrote. Deshawn relayed. One by one, landing lights broke through the snow and touched pavement. 41 aircraft, 0 incidents. When the last wheels kissed the runway, the room was silent. Then someone started to cry, and Marisol simply removed her headset and said, "See?" The picture was always in here. Trent arrived at 11:20, steak forgotten, coat soaked, ready to take credit or assign blame. He found the tower quiet, the crisis over, and Marisol calmly logging the night in longhand. The FAA investigator standing beside her turned to him first. "Mr. Kessler," the investigator said, "we've reviewed the outage. Your automated system has no manual fallback. It nearly caused a mass casualty event tonight. The only reason it didn't is standing right here. The controller your company terminated." Trent's spray tan went gray. She was redundant." "She was the redundancy," the investigator said flatly. "The one your budget deleted. The recordings would go to the safety board. The airline's contract, the promotion, the shiny future Trent had sold. All of it now hung on a woman he'd called an antique. The airline reinstated Marisol by morning, with back pay, a safety commendation, and a policy rewrite naming manual fallback training after her. Trent was quietly reassigned, the very word he'd used, now used on him, and later resigned before the board's report went public. But Marisol asked for something stranger than revenge. She asked that Priya and Deshawn be promoted to lead the new training program, teaching every young controller the old way alongside the new. The machine is not the enemy, she told them. Forgetting how to work without it, that's the enemy. That is the real lesson buried in this story. Progress that erases the humans behind it isn't progress at all. It's just a taller ladder with the bottom rung sawed off, waiting for the day the power goes out. Marisol worked 4 more years, then retired on her own terms, to a garden and a grandchild and a quiet she'd more than earned. On her last day, the whole tower applauded, and 41 pilots she'd never met sent letters. She read everyone. If this story moved you, if you believe the quiet, overlooked people are usually the ones holding the whole thing together, do one small thing. Subscribe to Quiet Justice and turn on the bell, so the next time someone gets underestimated and the truth comes roaring back, you're right here to see justice served. Hit that subscribe button now. Tell me in the comments what you'd have said to Trent that night, and share this with someone who's ever been called replaceable. They need to hear it. Stay kind, stay sharp, and never let them tell you that you don't matter.